And then also wealth compounding, right? Compounding interest. Einstein, he always said compounding interest is the secret weapon to success, because over time, the more we have, if we don't sell it, the more we make over time. So we're able to kind of take advantage of that. So we recommend whatever you can, trying to preserve whatever assets you have and not selling something, but borrowing. Let me give a real world example. So literally had this conversation with clients last week. They have a property, they have a family property in Fort Lauderdale. That family property is $175,000. So it's $175,000, and they wanted to sell it. So if they sold it, they basically would have paid capital gains tax of $15,000. So that would have been $15,000 that, goes to the IRS. They get nothing back. Now it's just there. Like, they're going to have to figure out to remodel it, because it's not in the best shape in the world, but still, like, it's just there, and they're paying property tax, they're paying insurance, they just want to get rid of it. It's family property, it needs a lot of work. So we're like, well, if you sell it, for 175,000, yeah, at 175,000, you get about $160,000 back. It's gone. So you pay Uncle Sam taxes, and then over time, as the value of that house perfectly is going to go up, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So we recommend that they actually borrow against it, right? So if they borrow against it, then because typically when you borrow against something, you get 70%. Usually you get 70% of your equity. So since it was paid off, their parents paid it off years ago, 70% was basically $120,000. So that's basically a $120,000 tax-free loan. It was not tax-free because you have to pay interest, but that income of $120,000, you don't pay taxes on. And then we had them set up an LLC where the interest that they paid a year for the loan was tax deductible. In this case, it was $7,800. So by doing that, they was able to use the $30,000 that they need to help their son, because the son got into a lot of trouble, and they needed $30,000 to make sure that all his trouble went away, if you know what I mean. But then with the other $90,000 that was left, they was able to use that to then fix up the parents' house. It took 6 months. It cost about $70,000 to fix it up because it needed some work. But now they're renting it out for about $1,300 a month. But now that $1,300 is actually paying for the loan, and they get about $400 a month after. So they're making about $5,000 a year. So they went from not having something and having a tax bill to still owning the property, made sure that their son's problems went away, and they have $5,000 a year of cash flow coming in. So this is a real world example why, if you kind of get into a pinch, it's always best to try to borrow compared to selling something.
Marv, had you a question about that?
Yes. Sean's in the house. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, brother, how are you? How are you?
No complaints.
Same here, man. God is good. Family member who was not directly related, but we call each other family. They actually own a house that they don't owe very much on. It's probably like $19,000 that they owe on. The issue with the problem is it's in the deceased grandfather's name as far as the mortgage, but the title is in her name, her mom's name, and her two aunties' name.
Okay.
At $19,000 in Georgia, the house has equity. It needs a ton of work. They are living in it. Is there any way to help that situation with a borrowing strategy to help them kind of pull some money out, fix it up, and still keep it?
Yeah.
To keep that house. And the issue, like I said, is it's in the mortgage is in the deceased grandfather's name.
So number one, the mortgage company, at the end of the day, they don't care who pays for it. They just want their money. So they don't care. Now, once it's paid off, then of course, from a title standpoint, it gets released to the people who actually own the property. So next question to you is, when the grandfather passed away, did it go through the probate process, or did it never go through probate?
Not sure.
Or do you know?
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not sure whether it went.
Okay, great.
But
yeah. So that is really the first issue. I mean, because again, paying it off, the mortgage company, they don't care. And if we have any mortgage brokers over here, but the issue is getting it from a deed standpoint so that they can now have ownership to do things they want to do and write it off from a tax standpoint. So they want to see, they would know if it went through probate. If it did not go through probate, then that house needs to go through probate. And then by law, right? So whoever his children are, then they are the ones who receive it. Let's say he had 4 children, they get 25% a piece of it, right? If you had 4 children, 1 child passed away, then the grandchildren gets that 25%. So that's the first thing. They have to have it go through probate. Once it's through probate, then they can then take ownership of it, and then they will start the process. I would recommend if it's them together and they want to do things together, set up a LLC collectively. Let's say it's 4 people. All of them own 25% of the LLC each. So they all get a piece of the tax write-offs because the LLC flows from their business through their personal. So let's say it's $10,000 of tax write-offs. Each person will get $2,500 a piece in tax write-offs per se. So like that's how they would flow through it. Then yes, they can be able to structure to get the loan, so they can do it. But before they do any of that stuff loan wise, they want to make sure that the probate process was complete. Because if not, then they could be doing work on the house, spending money, and not even own it. And ain't no guarantee they won't get that money back if the family member doesn't pay them back. So yeah, that's just something to think about.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Assets you can borrow against, right? So, and it's more, right? I just kind of just like the general ones that you can borrow against. Real estate, you can do a home equity loan or a HELOC. Now, another thing too, I know I mentioned this before, and when I meet, face to face with clients, I always mention this, but just for the masses, not a blanket recommendation, but information. I, information wise, say doesn't matter if you need the money, do a HELOC on your house. The reason why is because when you get a home equity line of credit, you don't have to take out the money. And I say, don't take out the money if you don't need it, right? Because if you get that home equity line of credit, if you don't take out the money, you're not charged interest. Only charge you interest is when you take out that money, right? If you don't take it out, you're not charged. Now, most banks and credit unions have some type of charge to have it, 100, 200. The most I've seen was $500 a year. So they'll charge you to have that home equity loan or that HELOC, that home equity line of credit. So your bank or your credit union will charge you to have it. Yes. But I would recommend, because if we get into a pinch, right, instead of having to, go through the loan process that takes, a month or a month and a half, or 21 days, as quick as we have the money available. Also, number 2, not trying to get political, but what's going on in the world right now, it might be a recession in the next 6 to 12 months. And when a recession happens, banks dry up lending. They make it a lot harder for a person, even if they have a great credit score, great, loan to value, pay stuff on time. They make it harder for people. And in some communities, they make it even more harder. So with that being said, if you have the home equity line of credit already, they can't take it away from you. Now, they might not let you get it if you apply for it, but if you have it already, it is a recession. 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, they can't take it away from you. So for those 3 reasons, I recommend anyone that has any type of equity in their house, talk to either your mortgage company or talk to your credit union. Credit unions are always better than banks, right? But talk to them, get a home equity line of credit. I'm not saying spend that money. I'm not saying take out that money if you don't need it, but it's best to have it just in case because life be lifing. In case life happens, we have access to it already. We don't have to make any rash decisions selling something that's there. That again, if we do have a recession, not saying we are, but we see what's going on in the world. If it is recession, you do have that there, and you have access to it, because once you have that home equity line of credit, they can't take it away from you. So yeah, so that's that. My food for thought. All right, so home equity line of credit, investment portfolios, right? So we can do securities backed lines of credit, which are called SBLCs, which we'll talk about as well. Then also business assets. You didn't even know this, but it's a company that we use and we have clients use before through them that you can actually structure your business assets like equipment, like computers, like laptops. You can actually do a loan against that as well. And I use an example of a client that did last year that has an event space in Wisconsin of all places, which is pretty cool what they did with some of their event space to raise more capital. But okay, so real estate equity example. So we all know real estate, right? We have a home value, $400,000 per se. If we have a mortgage of 250,000, that means our equity is 150,000. So again, you can still do a home equity line of credit. You can usually do up to 70%, but in this case, if you did a third of that, which is 50,000 at 7% interest, you can reinvest that into a cash flowing property earning 7%. Now, a lot of times when people do real estate, I tell them, don't worry about breaking even. And the reason why you really don't want to worry about breaking even is because the interest that you are paying the bank, it's a tax write-off. If you have it structured properly through your business, the interest that you're paying is a write-off. And you get the appreciation of the house because over time the house goes up. Now, the house doesn't go up as much as the stock market because on average, a house on average goes up by about 5% a year. An index makes 9% a year. So you don't get the appreciation as a stock, but you do have the appreciation. But you have the tax write-offs that you don't have with stock. So a lot of times people want to borrow money to put into the stock market. And we love stocks, and over time, historically speaking, the stock market does better than real estate. But when a person's borrowing money to buy another asset, I strongly recommend that they don't do it in the stock market. Even though from a growth standpoint, the stock market is probably going to do better over time, but we recommend that they actually do it in real estate because unlike a stock, when I put money into a stock that's not a retirement account, I can't write that off. I put money into that house, I get to write it off. I get to do a cost segregation study. It's just so much stuff I can do from a tax standpoint. So even though I might not make as much money, IRS is going to pay me more money. So if you include that into your decision making, you might clear when it's all said and done more money doing real estate than stocks. So again, love the stock market. We want people to invest in the stock market. But if you're borrowing money to grow, then you don't want to borrow it and put it into the stock market, even though the stock market is probably going to make more money. You want to put it into real estate to get those tax write-offs. So even if you're, not breaking even, if the mortgage is $1,700 and you're bringing in $1,500, yeah, you're losing $200, but all the write-offs associated with it, you're getting way back more than $2,000 from a write-off standpoint. So you're still, making money, and you have the accumulation after the fact.
Got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The HELOC that you were just talking about a few moments ago, how soon after a closing transaction of someone acquiring the property can they or should they do a HELOC?
Yeah, 30 to 90 days. Yeah, 30 to 90 days. Because, of course, when a person closes, they have to clear through title and all that type of stuff. So 30 to 90 days. Yep. And then, of course, we always recommend when you buy something, you want to get 3 different opinions. Go to a bank, go to a credit union. Then, of course, as you guys know, one of my business partners has a very large mortgage company, Capital Core Lending. So definitely, I can give them their information. You can kind of see what they are from a pricing standpoint. But anytime a person gets a mortgage, we always recommend going to 3 different places: bank, your credit union, and then a mortgage broker. And that'll kind of give you the biggest bang for your buck. Now, a cool thing actually about mortgage brokers compared to banks and credit unions, mortgage brokers can actually do the loan based on loan to value, right? Or asset to value. A lot of banks I know banks, definitely not credit unions, they kind of do traditional financing, right? So they look at your credit, your W-2s, all that type of stuff. Mortgage brokers or mortgage brokers companies, they are a lot more creative when it comes to structuring a loan and getting a loan. So if you want creativity involved, then you definitely want to look into a mortgage broker. Another thing as well, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I'd like to give information. So like for us, we help our clients with tax strategies, and we do whatever we can to make sure a person doesn't owe. We don't want you to get a refund. We I'm being facetious. We call a refund a broker man's way to wealth, because if you get a refund, that just means you're overpaying Uncle Sam throughout the year, and the IRS is paying you back at the end of the year. Like, we don't want a refund. We want you to kind of break even.